So David is now committed murder, and David, as he's making all these bad decisions, God sees what's going on. God sees these bad decisions that he's making. And so what God does is he sends the prophet Nathan to confront David. And so the prophet Nathan, he goes in to see King David, and he presents David with this situation that needs his attention. So Nathan describes this situation. He says, listen, King David, he says, we have this rich guy who he owns, multitudes of cattle, of farmland, of crops, of sheep. Like, he's rich, he's got a lot, he's got tons. But then there's this poor man. There's this poor man, he just has a little lamb. Now, he's had this little lamb for a long time. He raised it from being just a little baby. He actually even let this little lamb eat off of its plate, drink from its cup. He even had the little lamb sleep in his bed and kind of curl up close to it. So Nathan continues that there's this traveler that goes through the land. And the rich man's like, I want to throw a feast for this traveler who's traveling through. But what the rich man does is, instead of taking one of his many cattle or many sheep, he goes in and steals and takes the poor man's just one little sheep. He steals it, he takes the sheep, he slaughters it, and prepares this huge feast for this traveler. Well, David, he's like furious. He's like, what are you talking about? This man surely needs to die and pay back 4 times what he has taken. Nathan, the prophet Nathan, he looks right at David and he says, you're the man. It's you. You're the man that took that poor little one sheep. It's you. Have you ever been confronted with your sin? Anyone call you out on a sinful decision or lifestyle that you've been making? How do you respond when the Holy Spirit convicts you of sin? David is called out by the prophet Nathan, and he has a decision to make, because this next decision is going to dictate his kingdom for generations to come. David's been making horrible decisions up until this point. But now David's been called out by God on his sin. He has a decision to make. Do you know it's in this moment that David writes the 51st Psalm? I want to read a portion of Psalm 51. It says, create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me from your presence or take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of my salvation and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. In the midst of David's sin, David responds with, create in me a clean heart, God. I messed up. I made a mistake. I've been down a path that I never should have been on. Lord, create in me a clean heart. Lord, restore to me the joy of your salvation. You see, David penned Psalm 51 in that moment when the prophet Nathan called him on his sin.